Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to share this panel discussion with you about media freedom in Azerbaijan. Many of you may have heard about the new media law that was signed into law about a year ago, supposedly to strengthen the media and the media environment, though under warnings from the media and national and international media experts that the law would in fact stifle the media and worsen the media environment in the country. 1 year later, and now that some of the law's most controversial provisions are in fact being fully implemented, and I think we'll hear about that today, we're in a good position to take stock of the law and its impact on media and the media environment in Azerbaijan and the overall media freedom situation in the country. I'm very excited to introduce the panelists who will share their insights on these important questions with you. And first, we'll have introductory remarks by Jeremy Branston, Acting Editor-in-Chief of RFERL, and will be followed by Emin Abbasov, Chair of the Independent Lawyers Network in Azerbaijan, Olvi Hasanli, Executive Director of Abbasov Media in Azerbaijan, Ilkin Mammadov, Service Director of RFERL Azerbaijani Service, and Gulnoza Saeed, Head of Europe and Central Asia Program Committee to Protect Journalists. My name is Matthew Schaff, and I'm with Freedom Now, Advocacy Director there, and happy to pass the floor to Jeremy Branson from RFERL. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Good afternoon, everybody from our headquarters in Prague. My name is Jeremy Branston. I'm the Acting Editor-in-Chief of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to today's panel discussion on the media environment in Azerbaijan. Last month, in fact, RFERL celebrated the 70th anniversary of our Azerbaijani service, which is known as Radio Azatlik. Over these past 7 decades, Radio Azatlik has built a reputation as a leading source of uncensored news, of open debate, providing extensive coverage of corruption, of political repression, electoral fraud. For this, we have been punished time and time again. Our journalists have been harassed, they have been assaulted, they have been jailed, they've been targeted with spyware attacks. As part of the Aliyev regime's ongoing crackdown on independent media, Azerbaijani police raided and shut down our Baku bureau back in 2014, and they blocked access to our website Inside Azerbaijan in 2017. Since then, unfortunately, the media situation in Azerbaijan has continued to deteriorate at an alarming rate. New legislative and administrative restrictions have created immense challenges for any media outlet that refuses to bow down to government censorship. So today's discussion is going to focus on these restrictions, including the draconian media law that was rubber-stamped by the Azerbaijani parliament in December 2021. Overseeing RFERL's work in 23 countries, I can tell you that this worrying trend is sadly not unique to Azerbaijan. Over the past decade, we've seen a proliferation of so-called disinformation laws, foreign agent laws, and other harmful bills that are designed to censor and criminalize independent media across RFERL's broadcast region. In fact, Azerbaijan's media law was modeled closely on Russia's foreign agent law, which came into effect back in 2012, so more than a decade ago. Russian authorities have used their own law to target RFERL, designating dozens of our journalists as foreign agents, forcing us, in fact, to suspend our in-country operations last year after we refused to pay millions of dollars in fines for non-compliance with this absurd law. Last month, similarly malicious foreign agent legislation was adopted by the government of Republika Srpska, one of Bosnia-Herzegovina's 2 entities. Local civil society organizations said that the law was about establishing supervision and total control over their work. The Bosnian Serbian leader, Miroslav Dodik, has backed the legislation, and that seemed to confirm these concerns. He said that foreign-funded organizations would now have to report, quote, everything that they are doing. In February, there was another foreign agent bill that was modeled on the Russian one that was proposed by the ruling party in next door Georgia. And it was withdrawn only after massive street protests. If the bill is reintroduced in Parliament in its current form, which is possible, it would represent an existential threat to independent media in Georgia, and as well as hundreds of exiled journalists that have taken refuge in Georgia from Azerbaijan, from Russia, and countries where they can no longer perform their work. The case of Georgia shows us just how dangerous these trends can be and how they can reverberate across countries. But it's also a testament to the power of civil society and international pressure in the face of such encroachments on press freedom. I hope today's discussion will serve as a reminder that democratic governments must stand with the brave, independent journalists of Azerbaijan and send a strong message to Baku that any attempt to silence them will have consequences. Thank you, and I wish you a fruitful discussion.
Thank you, Jeremy. I share your sentiments. And also thanks to RFERL and Committee to Protect Journalists for partnering with Freedom Now and others on this event. Just a reminder that the event is being recorded. And if you have a question, please share your question in the written Q&A box, and we will get to them after the speakers. And first, I'd like to invite Emin Abbasov from the Independent Lawyers Network to speak with us. Emin, you're in Azerbaijan. Your organization is involved in lots of different aspects of human rights from the legal perspective. Can you give us a basic overview of the media environment and the media law as you folks see it right now? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Matthew, for having me on this important event. In my short speech, in 10-minute speech, I will try to look at the key provisions of the new media law and also the general overview of the media environment, the environment for media professionals in Azerbaijan. Actually, the media environment was shrinked with different kind of violations of rights of media and journalists in Azerbaijan prior to the adoption of the new media law. And we see that the state has always saw the media as an entity to be controlled through the policy of state care, through the different funding, and also restrictions as a means to protect national security or information security in the country. And unfortunately, this kind of understanding of the media's role remains unchanged. And we see it in the entire provisions of the new media law. Until the new media law, the media environment was regulated actually by the previous law on mass media, adopted in 1999. And the new media law was reportedly aimed to design the media law for the sake of new needs and the demands of the media environment in Azerbaijan. However, we observed that the new law actually poses more significant challenges for already a problematic, I would say, the media environment through the different provisions that I will talk later about this problematic provisions of the law. And during the adoption process of the law, we saw, and also after the adoption of the law, we heard many concerns from the international organizations about the new law. The Venice Commission and the Office of OSCE representative of freedom of media highlighted the law's problematic language and the scope, as well as its negative impacts on freedom of expression and the media freedom in Azerbaijan. They recommended a long list of recommendations and asked Azerbaijan not to implement the law in its current form, because of the problematic provisions which contradicts with international standards in the field of the media freedoms. I would like also to, before going to the details of the law, I would like also to talk about another law, another restrictive law that addressing to freedom of expression at online for not media professionals, but other social media users or the ordinary people, how to say. It is the law on information, informatization, and the protection information, which contains many restrictive provisions, which limiting online content and of course the online freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. And we observed in the last 2 years more frequent application of this law by the law enforcement authorities, specifically the prosecutors. That in numerous cases we saw that social media users, including media professionals, faced with administrative fines, the administrative arrests for exercising their rights of freedom of speech on the basis of vaguely defined legal grounds, even in some cases without referring to the any provisions, just abstract provisions, which we as lawyers cannot find those legal grounds that was mentioned in different judicial acts. So talk about the key provisions of the new law. I can talk about the restricted provisions for online content, which envisaged in the Article 14 of the media law, that requires that information published in media must meet at least 14 requirements, which many of them quite vague and difficult to follow. One such requirement, for instance, prohibits media from using immoral, lexical, swearing words or expressions, or it also prohibits the other content which raises questions about the right to privacy or the information that information related to the defamation, slander, insult, which not clearly explicitly defined. The frameworks of the scope of this not defined in the law, and also unfortunately the judicial, the case law of these provisions, which we know that these the slander, for instance, these grounds are already we have these grounds in the criminal code, which criminalized acts, these defamation expressions, which is the courts are using these provisions with vague manner, and there is no, unfortunately, the clear the scope of these provisions. Another requirement is for the journalists is that the facts and the events must be interpreted by the journalists impartially and objectively, which is, and also one-sided must be followed. So these provisions requires journalists to comply with other laws, like the law on information, informatization, which that provisions criticized for their vagueness. So these and many other broad and vague provisions which lead to self-censorship by journalists. For instance, for example, the duty to be impartial or accurate reporting is likely to result in self-censorship, because who will decide the impartiality is the judiciary in Azerbaijan, which also not independent. And we see that in many cases, they interpreted the critical voices, critical comments as a defamative expressions. So these are very serious concerns when it comes to the provisions related to the online media content. Another point is, which is most discussed actually about among the media professionals in Azerbaijan, is the media registry. So the new media law mandates the establishment of a registry system for media outlets and journalists, raising concerns about this compliance with international standards. So this media registry regulation also criticized by the Venice Commission. Nevertheless, the law says that permission from state bodies is not required, for instance, to set up online media, but another provisions, for instance, Article 78, it requires that registration with the media registry within the 6 months of after the adoption of the law. The regulations rules for the registering at the media. So in one side, the law says that there is no requirements for online media outlets to be registered at state, but in the another provisions, we see that law actually requires the media outlets to be registered at the media registry. And so these are contradictory points, and we see that also, and the failure of to follow these rules also leads to fine and other liabilities. To qualify as an online media, also law contains other requirements for online media platforms, for online media outlets. It, for instance, requires that the online media outlets should publish at least 20 articles per day, which we know that there are a lot of online media outlets which do not have such sufficient resources to publish genuine media materials, 20 articles, let's say, per day. And another, how to say, requirements for journalists and the media outlets to be registered at the media registry. For instance, it requires the 3 years work experience for media journalists, for journalists, and the owner must be an Azerbaijani citizen, or legal entity at least 75% of the authorized capital must be owned by the Azerbaijani citizen. So these are those provisions which actually potentially violating the international standards on the right to freedom of information and expression. And another point is the key point is also suspension of the media outlets. The rules that regulating the procedures for suspend the work of the online media outlets or print media, let's say. The rules governing the suspension or termination of the activities of online media entities or distribution of media products by a court decision. We see that the law actually empowers the authorities, namely the media agency, with the much more broad powers to suspend or terminate the work of the media outlets. For instance, the suspension of media outlet based on abuse of freedom in the field of media rights or journalists, which is quite vague. We don't know what is the abuse of freedom of expression or freedom of journalistic rights actually, since we don't have any well-established jurisprudence in courts system or in the practice of the respective authorities, I mean, which is responsible for regulating the media rules. So such vague provisions are likely to empower the state authorities to consider any passable media activity as an abuse of freedom in the field of media. And for instance, we have the law says that the organizations, when online media entity violates the requirements of the law during 3 times a year, and if the media outlets receive the warning 3 times in a year, so the media agency has a right to apply to request the court to request the court to suspend the activities of the media outlets. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I don't know if I have more time, but I would like to stop here, and I'm here to answer any questions if we will have.
Great, thank you, Emin. Thank you very much. We will have time for questions and answers after the speakers. And next, I'd like to invite Gulnoza from Community to Protect Journalists to share with us In particular, her organization has done a lot to report on media issues, media freedom, journalists in Azerbaijan, and also as a keen observer of these legal developments and like to the international perspective on the media environment and the media law as well. Gulnoza.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. Good morning from New York, and good afternoon to those who are joining from other parts of the world. And thank you for joining our panel, which we called Moving in the Wrong Direction, the question mark, but there shouldn't be a question mark because we are discussing the media law that is going to restrict media freedom even more in Azerbaijan. Committee to Protect Journalists is an international non-governmental organization. We advocate for greater press freedom and safety of journalists around the world. And I lead CPJ's work on Europe and Central Asia. That includes Azerbaijan. And we have a team of representatives and correspondents who cover different countries around the region, including Azerbaijan. So we also did an internal review of the law, and I'm glad that I don't have to talk about the provisions of the law. Emin did a great job doing that. Thank you, Emin, for that. And also, Jeremy highlighted the main problems, speaking from the perspective of RFRL, but those problems are applicable to practically any media outlet that dares to report on Azerbaijan independently from the government-set narrative. We have been documenting press freedom violations in Azerbaijan since 1991, when the country became independent. And I have to say that it's never been free in terms of press freedom and safety of journalists. And one of the biggest and most prominent tools that the authorities have used to silence independent reporting is imprisonment. And over the years, we have documented a lot of journalists, the cases of a lot of journalists who have been imprisoned in retaliation for their work. And in some years, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, Azerbaijan was one of the leading jailers of journalists in Eurasia, next to Turkey, which, as you know, especially following the attempted coup in 2016, had dozens of journalists, if not more than hundreds, in jail. So at some point, we documented 10 cases of journalists imprisoned in Azerbaijan. When we conducted our most recent prison census in December 2022, there were 2 journalists, and one of them, Polat Aslanov, is serving a lengthy prison term of 13 years on trumped-up charges. And I'm mentioning this because imprisonment is one of the tools that the authorities in authoritarian countries use to silence independent reporting. But the reason the number last year was lower than, let's say, 5 or 6 years ago is that in Azerbaijan, just like in many other authoritarian countries, what happens is that there remains little need to imprison journalists, as there are fewer journalists reporting independently, and also the authorities are creating the legal environment that makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to continue working independently. And this media law that we're discussing today is exactly that. The authorities are taking the path similar to Russia or what Georgia used to do, just like as Jeremy mentioned at the beginning. And it is too bad that there is less outcry from the international community regarding this law than there was on the foreign agent law in Georgia. And one of the reasons for that is obviously that Georgia has a much stronger civil society. Probably the best thing about Georgia is its strong civil society. And the reason that the authorities dropped, at least for now, the legislation, the draft bill on foreign agent is the mass protests, which we are not very likely to see in Azerbaijan, because the authorities made everything they could to eliminate or to make it very, very hard for civil society to exist and to consolidate the protests, including against these law. And these law, also if you read articles about this law, often you would see that people are a bit confused, or maybe there is a lack of clarity as to provisions. And I think it's done very intentionally, because the authorities are using the carrot and stick method as they are known to use. We all know that at some point in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, the authorities were giving apartments to journalists, which was a way to, encourage them, quote unquote, if not to bribe them, to have a more pro-government or government-friendly line in their reporting. And here in this law, we also see a lot of room for co-option, because it's not just the provisions don't just envision to punish those who, for example, don't follow certain regulations, but also to encourage journalists to, let me say, speak less against the government. And I'm not even talking about how this law is going to make it very difficult for foreign-based media outlets such as Meydan and RFRL's Azerbaijani language service that have been very prominent in reporting on a lot of sensitive issues, including corruption, which is a huge issue in Azerbaijan, and not many local journalists have the capacity, let alone freedom, to report on those. And also those provisions on media outlets that have to have at least 20 news published a day, at least 20 days a month, that all puts a lot of requirements that look like you're looking at a baby and requiring a baby to walk as a toddler. Because very often in Azerbaijan, those critical media outlets are usually small media outlets, sometimes run by just a couple of people who do it because they know there are a lot of problems that people on a very local level want to see reported. And these provisions are going to be to practically kill those small media outlets, because those media outlets won't be able to meet those requirements. I also wanted to mention about one, since I'm talking about the international aspect of the issue, and Emin already mentioned about the Venice Commission, that is an advisory body of the Council of Europe. Azerbaijan has been a Council of Europe member, and the Council of Europe has, sorry, this is typical sounds of New York. I can't do anything about it, sirens. Azerbaijan has been a member of the Council of Europe, and the Council of Europe has a platform on the safety of journalists and promotion of the media, which CPJ co-founded in 2015. And through the platform, we, CPJ and other organizations, upload alerts on press freedom violations in member countries, including Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan is one of only 2 countries that never responds to those alerts, along with Turkey. And until last year, Russia also was one of those. So what I see, just trying to summarize, is that this law is very restrictive. There is no doubt it should be repealed. We wrote a letter to the Azerbaijani president in February 2022, asking him to repeal this law as well as provide a greater press freedom. Our letter went unanswered. Azerbaijani authorities rarely answer our requests, but they did answer in a very vague form our request about this law. The head of the Media Development Agency sent us a very short and very vague response that only adds to lack of clarity that I already mentioned on this law. But it is very clear, and I wanted to reiterate CPJ's position, that this law should not be should be repealed, and the journalists in Azerbaijan should be allowed to work freely and safely without the government infringement of their activities. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gulnoza. So we've heard a lot about the back history and concerns about the recent media law. And now we'll hear from some journalists who are covering developments in Azerbaijan, both from abroad and on the ground, about what the actual impact has been. And so I'd like to invite Ilkin Mammadov from RFERL as the next speaker to share with us what the impact of what the current environment is and the impact of the media law on their work. Okay.
Thank you, Matthew. Actually, thank you, Emin and Gulnoza already, who described situation in Azerbaijan regarding this new media law. And also, I just want to mention here that like directions that Azerbaijan going on, media freedom. What Gulnoza said, it's even if you take, history of RFRL, what in Azerbaijan, you can see it obviously that since 2004, RFRL was able first time to open bureau in Azerbaijan, after the elections and after Haydar Aliyev, but it was very short-lived. In 2009, we together with BBC and VIA were kicked out from FM frequencies. That time, government used National TV Radio Council to justify their decisions, etc. Then we were moved after FM frequencies. We used this opportunity to focus more on internet and more on discussion formats. What we were doing through Baku Bureau. 2014 was a time for them to close down our Baku Bureau raid and Khadija's arrest, etc. Then we again, tried to evolve and switch fully to internet. And government is always, following this evolution. They think that with prohibiting or with this legislation or physical acts, they'll be able kind of to control media situation in Azerbaijan. But I would sound maybe a little bit more optimistic. But these disruptions that they are causing also actually helping Azeri journalists to evolve more and to get more, to find new ways, more creative ways, how to speak of truth, how to search, how to collaborate together, and as a result, in 90s it wasn't besides BBC, Radio Free Europe, etc. It wasn't international media outlets reporting from Azerbaijan, but now we have even immigrant media organizations that are working, to cover Azeri situation. And there is also, it might be small, it's not as strong as newspapers used to be in Azerbaijan, but online media entities in Azerbaijan that are continuing mission of reporting. But what we see with this new media law that after 2014 Baku Bureau closure, RFRL was first among other media outlets, instead of shutting down operations, to switch to freelance networks, using freelance networks, and when operating not from physical office but using remote resources, it wasn't quite easy also, for government to control situation. And while number of media outlets using freelance and stringers operations increased in Azerbaijan now, actually it was expected for us that, Azeri government will come up to do something to prohibit even freelancing or trying to license freelancing in Azerbaijan. Actually, licensing journalism is, I would say, only unique to Azerbaijan, what they're trying to do in the country. But situation with the new media law for maybe RFRL is not changed so much, because since 2014 we are operating under the same, gray zone as because of criminal investigations against our journalists. But this will hurt more local media entities as well, as and also, it's threat and it's scaring new freelancers who want to join journalism, because no one wants to do what's illegal from very beginning. And while the law also define who is journalist and who is legal journalist, it's also at least according to previous Azeri information and media laws, foreign media entities were allowed to have legal operation in Azerbaijan. But according to this new media law, now it's media entities can be founded only by citizens of Azerbaijan, and any representative is maximum 25% foreign capital, etc. So it puts automatically RFRL and other media entities who are covering Azerbaijan out of Azerbaijan, in an illegal position. And it's only naming there that it's only they can only operate based on bilateral agreements between the countries, kind of trying to force Aliyev regime to pick up who will operate in Azerbaijan, while Russia and even some Iranian outlets were operating freely, but the rest of media outlets, especially Western ones, automatically becoming illegal with this new media law. And regarding media registry, it's automatically closed, even if RFRL or other foreign media entities would like to join. It's automatically closed because of restrictions of having Azeri citizen on managing positions, and not having any foreign capital. And also it would affect, and it would somehow halt financing by grants of civil society in Azerbaijan, who some NGOs who had also some media projects. This media law is also focusing on them, aiming and trying to push them into this illegal corner that we used to see after this crackdown on NGOs. But despite this, all I would say these barriers and constraints that are created by Azeri government, it's what we see now, that even despite this new media law and restrictions and what they try to implement, yes, it's these physical barriers and this arrests and detentions are scaring some people, but it's also on other side, it's also helping media entities inside Azerbaijan operating to trying to find new ways like partnerships, collaboration, and with a new text that now it's available for the media. Citizen journalism, this is what we see that will prosper more. Just a simple example, yesterday what I saw on Facebook, that it was some citizen, ordinary user is complaining, is it any media, I want just to give interview, complain about something else. So this is, while you don't have normal traditional media in Azerbaijan, it will force people try to find new ways to express themselves, to deliver this information, to reach out to the foreign media or even local media, even if they are illegal, and eventually this will lead what government, I would say, that aiming with this new law, it would decrease level of professional journalism in Azerbaijan, because while you see there will be more fakes, more inaccurate information, and these intimidation campaigns, in addition to that, this is Azeri government what was trying to do since 2011, 12, that discredit media and best case scenarios, say that it's just gossips, etc. So, but this effect on RFRL is not, I wouldn't say that only RFRL, we will speak about local media, but it's not only like legislation or physical barriers. There is also, we usually, forget to talk about, these digital barriers that, there's troll farms in Azerbaijan that are, used and controlled by Azeri government and used for on any platform. First, just trying to prevent any discussion on commenting on Facebook and on Instagram. We see it very heavily. On YouTube, they're using different tools like with false copyright strikes and also false community guideline strikes, trying to take down content from these platforms. And also, what's more and more we are facing that they are going after also users who are commenting, or after it's already authors on social media as well. For example, we have cartoonist who is quite famous and popular in Azerbaijan, and almost after every cartoon is published, he is facing at least 1,000 messages with threats, etc. And this is what is a result of, I would say, impunity that in Azerbaijan is filled. You can feel that to journalists, to media, you can do whatever you want. No one will punish you for that. And unfortunately, we don't expect that this situation will get any better. I would stop here, just for any questions, etc., and for any details.
Thank you, Ilkin. That's very, very depressing last words from you, but thank you very much for sharing. And next we'll hear from Ulvi Hasanli, who is with Abbasov Media, a local independent media group. Ulvi, how is the law affecting your work in the situation in Azerbaijan?
Hello, everyone. I would like to thank the organizers, speakers, and who are watching us for devoting attention and time to this topic in the difficult situation of the media in Azerbaijan. Also, journalism is considered a free profession in the most countries of the world. It has become a licensed field in Azerbaijan. As Abbasov Media, we have encountered a number of limitations in our experience this year. Our access to official events is restricted. Even in front of the parliament, obstacles are created for us to get statements from MPs. The reason for these actions is that we are not registered in the registry. Also, after the implementation of the media registry, a number of government agencies refused to respond to our information requests and statements. We started protest while the law was still being discussed in the parliament. We use of force by the police against our employee, Nargiz Absalomova, during our protest in front of the parliament resulted in her undergoing a medical operation. The law was passed despite the protests of the independent journalists, but we still continue our campaign. Of course, as journalists, we don't want to engage in advocacy campaigns of this type. We want to focus on our investigation and reports, but the civil society in Azerbaijan is in such a difficult situation that we as a journalist are also forced to carry out campaigns for the protection of our rights. As a result, as a protest against the law blocking the work of the media, we together with our colleagues have started a campaign called We Don't Want Licensed Media. Within the framework of this campaign, we have held a number of the events, published statements, and called on the government to change this law and abolish the media registry. Regarding the media registry, the heads of several media organizations, including us, have submitted to appeal to the Constitutional Court in recent days. We think that the law and the registry rules against the Constitution. After that, we will continue our struggle and campaign at the legal level, because there are several independent media organizations operating in Azerbaijan. If they are completely out of order, people in Azerbaijan will not find any other media to hear the trust. As a part of the advocacy campaign, we have held a meeting with international organizations and embassies in Azerbaijan. One of them took place in February this year at the suggestion of the ambassador of the European Union in Azerbaijan. The diplomats from embassies of more than 15 Western countries participate in the meeting. Diplomats want to answer their questions about what restrictions the law will bring to journalists and media organizations. After this meeting, we were attacked in the media close to government and in the parliament. They called me the head of the newly created Soros TV. They presented the meeting as a meeting organized to create destabilization in Azerbaijan. Of course, this attack also creates risk for our activities, making us an open target. Abbasov Media, one of the few independent media whose entire staff and management are based in Azerbaijan. Media organizations with full staff in the country are more in danger than the rest. If the activities of media organizations working for the Azerbaijan audience abroad are restricted in the country, they can still publish news and broadcast reports from their offices abroad. Our station is different and more difficult. If our activity is banned in the country, the activity of Abbasov Media or other local media like us may stop completely. The government's media development agency has given all media organizations until March 26. The head of the agency, Ahmed Smilov, said that, however, doesn't apply the media registry, they will be sued and closed. In his speech, Smilov even announced the decision instead of the court. The requirements of the new law clearly show that the purpose of the government's adoption of the law, new law, is to completely disable and silence the few independent media organizations and journalists in Azerbaijan. As Abbasov Media, we and a number of independent media organizations have already announced that we will not apply for this registry because we don't intend to operate under restrictions within the framework defined by the government. We predict that the government will attack the media in near future, gradually fining, administratively arresting or opening criminal case against independent media executives. With the adoption and implementation of the new law on media, pressures against journalists and media institutions begin again in the country. If the government of Azerbaijan doesn't abandon this law, we will again become the target of the serious repression against free speech. There will not be any independent media organization in the name of free speech in Azerbaijan. Therefore, we call on the international community to support us in this matter and help us stop the Azerbaijan government. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulvi, very much. Just as a reminder to those participating in the event, I encourage you to in the sort of bottom left middle part of your screen, and please feel free to share any questions with us. We have a few more minutes to answer any questions you might have, but I'll start out with one. You know, we in the past, the limitations on the media market limitations on advertising were used to control media, to control their funding, and the question of sustainability of media in Azerbaijan in these new in this new environment with restrictions on journalists, for example, on the editorial policies of media outlets, Can you, I'm curious, what does this law, what will its impact be on media sustainability in the country? Will media be able to find new journalists and to actually train them? And will they be able to continue working in this environment? I think maybe Ulvi or Ilkin or Emin could respond to that question.
Well, what I can say about let's say the funding of the media, Azerbaijan, local media in Azerbaijan was it has specific how to say problems itself. From the side of the law in new media law, it of course introduces some limitations for foreign funding for local media outlets. But when it comes to the other income generating activities like the advertising or other activities, we know that there was a lot of discussions among the media professionals and the information agencies that there is no business environment in Azerbaijan to start with, if we start, and there is no independent judiciary, and we believe that no any business entity can without any fear, without any reprisals, can fund any independent media outlet. So I know that this was also discussed many times in many previous discussions among the media professionals, that we unfortunately don't have such enabling environment that businesses are comfortable to fund independent media outlets in return to some advertising. So therefore, I think that this is a systematic and environment-related problem, that we don't have that favorable operational environment for business, and consequently, businesses are not free any reprisals and any harassments to fund independent media outlets in Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Emin. And Ilkin, I believe you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that, this sustainability of media in Azerbaijan, this topic, for at least for us, for journalists, was closed after newspaper era in Azerbaijan, when last newspapers after crackdown, they lost the ads coming by different oligarchs, and only those who were controlled by oligarchs were able to survive. You can see it on print media market in Azerbaijan. But I would say that this law, I mentioned it even before, this law also prohibits with this new media law, it will not be even easy to attract for media entities grants from external funders. So this is something new with this new media law, because before it was like still under previous legislation, it was still somehow affecting only news reporting part of Azeri media, financing half of operations, reporting was still allowed, but now it will not be, because I would say that it will affect also elections, because usually during elections there is a lot of funds, external funds, were supporting Azeri media to have at least projects for elections or campaign on human rights, etc. Now this will also fall under this new legislation, and it will be actually illegal. So that's why this media law has I would say that longer and further aim rather than just trying to license freelancers, etc. It will affect also main financing of Azeri media, because unfortunately when there is no independent, as Emin also mentioned, there is no independent advertisement market in Azerbaijan. Media needs to finance its operations through either grants, or the only remaining part will stay. It will be on digital platforms, Google AdSense, YouTube, or TikTok monetization, which would not add to the quality of journalism. And also, if government has upper hand even here, because if some media entity is illegal, they can simply block or tamper this even YouTube channel, as we are seeing in our case, or or even if it will be on some social media platform. And as we see that even TikTok representatives were invited after the war to Azerbaijan to visit, trying to build system to control which content will be monetized on TikTok and which news will appear on TikTok as well. So I would say that with this new media law, this is going to be really a citizen journalism only in Azerbaijan. Volunteer citizen journalism, which would of course affect, if there is no money in any profession, it will be harder to attract new talents, to train them, and to have more freelancers who will be able to work, or willing to work for independent media.
Yeah, thank you, Ilkin. There was a question from Maya regarding the civil society's response and the public's response, and how united it was to this, to the media law, to the current environment. Olvi, could you or others respond to that question? Olvi, we can't. Perhaps Emin or Ilkin could also respond if they'd like to.
Before Ulvi joins, I would say that it's not about how United was respond to this new media law. I would say that society and all media entities, at least independent ones, were against that. And for example, RFRL started discussing this new media law before November 2021. When first drafts appeared about this new media law. But the problem is that independent media also have limited resources to raise these questions and to reach out to authorities. And also I remember that only once it was some meeting organized where when Turan Information Agency and some other media entity editors were invited for this meeting, and everyone raised their concerns, and it was like even alternative, as I believe that even alternative law draft points were provided, but it was all just thrown away, and government just pursued with their original plan. Because I would say that also Azeri media, also Azeri civil society expect always more from international community, international organizations, and I would say that big Western powers on many issues regarding democracies. But unfortunately, entire geopolitical situation, war in Ukraine, and Europe energy crisis, etc. It's always coming first, and the democracy issues of Azerbaijan is usually under prioritized on agendas, and therefore it's almost 2 years past from this draft coming to parliament, and we are still talking about what could be done, etc. Yeah.
Thank you, Ilkin. Emin or Olvi, you're welcome to respond as well.
Well, I just would like to add one point about the sustainability issue, which the new law also introduced the requirement for media registry in order to be benefited from some funding opportunities, such as sponsorship of the government entities. The new media law says that only media outlets which is registered at the media registry can actually can get a fund from the state authorities for distributing official announcements or tender announcements or other information which is prepared by the state authorities or other state support or the state-funded projects. So the only state media registered organizations in the media registry can enjoy these opportunities. This is about the sustainability. And in the second question about the effect of the international media organizations, of course, the law introduced some limitations in terms of sponsorship, in terms of accreditation of the foreign journalists, and also establishment of branch and the representative offices of international media outlets in Azerbaijan in the law generally. And of course, it is regulated by the Cabinet of Ministers decisions and also the resolution of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which also contains many, I would say, contradictory provisions that required by international media outlets to respect those requirements, like respect to the the national interests or sovereignty of the Azerbaijan. So the many requirements for international media outlets or journalists seeking to accredit in Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Emin. And Olvi, we're listening.
Mən üzr istəyirəm. Suala qısa cavab verəcəm. Tərcüməni burada bizim dostumuz eləyəcəkdir.
I'm sorry, I will provide a very short response to the question and I will translate for him.
Azərbaycanda vətəndaş cəmiyyətinlə bağlı vəziyyət belədir ki, yəni 2013-cü ildə repressiyalardan, həbslərdən sonra vətəndaş cəmiyyəti demək olar ki, mövcud deyil. Yəni söhbət keçmiş, yəni qocaman təşkilatlardan gedir.
The situation for civil society in Azerbaijan is that after 2013, the repressions around that time, civil society has almost ceased to exist, and this is about older organizations that were in existence before that time period.
Azərbaycanda jurnalistlərin hüquqlarının müdafiəsindən bağlı yalnız indi bir-iki təşkilat fəaliyyət göstərir və onlar sadəcə jurnalistlərin məhkəmələrdə yerli və beynəlxalq məhkəmələrdə hüquqlarını müdafiə etməklə məşğuldurlar.
There's only one or two organizations right now in Azerbaijan that are providing legal assistance to journalists in case they have court cases, and that's when they provide representation for them in local and international courts.
Amma jurnalistlərin hüquqlarının müdafiəsindən bağlı kampaniya aparacaq demək olar ki, heç bir yerli təşkilat yoxdur və ona görə də Azərbaycanda bu qanunla bağlı jurnalistlərdən başqa demək olar ki, heç kimin bizlə bağlı heç kim bir iş görə bilmir, fəaliyyət həyata keçirə bilmir.
But there is no such organization in Azerbaijan that's local and can conduct advocacy activities on behalf of journalists in the country, and that's why no one except for journalists themselves have spoken up about the law on media.
Thank you, Olvi. We have time for one more question, and this one I will direct to Gulnoza. You spoke about similar experiences and provisions in other countries, and we also heard from Jeremy about that too at the beginning. Can you make any predictions about what might happen in Azerbaijan after like this? I mean, we've heard about some of the impacts already. Where does it seem like the media and the media environment in Azerbaijan might be going?
Thank you, Matthew. Yes, as everyone spoke, in my mind, I kept drawing parallels with a lot of countries across the region where we have a very strict media environment. For example, that policy of carrot and sticks, as I said, we have seen and still see the authorities giving advertising contracts to media outlets in Turkey or Kazakhstan, and then pulling them out over some reporting on an unrelated issue, some issue that the authorities were not happy about. Or what we saw in Kazakhstan is that they lured a lot of prominent journalists from media outlets to become spokespersons in government agencies or state oil companies where salaries were definitely much higher. So by doing so, media outlets were left with fewer qualified and experienced journalists at some point. What is going to happen in Azerbaijan with this law, which nobody is calling foreign agent law, but in many ways, as I said at the beginning, it is similar to foreign agents laws, just like it was already mentioned, that a lot of media outlets have to rely on foreign funding, and this legislation, among other things, is also trying to restrict that, but also with very few opportunities to protest against this law. We are going to see that this law is going to be enacted, and in practice it will mean more restrictions on press freedom, and smaller media outlets will die out. I wanted to compliment Ulvi and others, brave journalists who continue reporting from inside Azerbaijan despite all the difficulties. I often hear from some people that independent media doesn't exist in Azerbaijan anymore. And that is a good line to draw attention to the dire press freedom environment in Azerbaijan, but it's not totally accurate, because there are still independent media outlets like Abzats, Toplam, or Toran, which has a network of correspondents in different regions, and they continue reporting, including on sensitive issues like corruption, as I said. So I wanted to commend you, Ulvi, and your colleagues who continue that brave work.
Whoa, it looks like we missed, unfortunately, Gulnoza has dropped off. And unless she comes back very briefly, we'll have to end the event. Thank you for everyone who listened in to the event. Thank you to all the speakers. You have left us with a lot to think about not only the impact of recent legislative changes, but where the media is going in Azerbaijan, and how people are going to get access to information and to news and reporting about what's happening in the country. Please do follow RFERL's work and Abbasov Media, which is reporting on the ground as well, and Independent Lawyers Network, and CPJ, and Freedom Now. Thank you to all the co-organizers of this event, and have a nice day. Thank you, everyone.